In last week's video, I spoke about competition in education and its impact on children's mental health. I also mentioned that this competition has an impact on the nature of the educational experience, and that's what I want to talk about today. And there's two parts to this story: how we learn and what we learn. So, first on the how we learn. When a child is in school, who is he learning from? We expect him to learn from the teacher because the teacher is paid for that. But is it only from the teacher? Ideally, they should be learning from each other as well. So, if there's some concept or theory or problem that you're stuck with, you can ask a friend, can you help me understand this? Can you help me work this out? And this kind of peer to peer learning is very effective. It helps the child who is asking for help because they're able to get some kind of personalized support. And it also helps the child who's giving the help because when you have to figure out how to explain something to someone who is struggling to understand it, it really deepens your own understanding as well. So it's really a win-win situation for everybody. But the way the competition is in Sri Lanka, children are increasingly losing out on this opportunity. So let me illustrate this with a couple of anecdotes. Back when I was in school and even in university for that matter, if you missed a day, you'd borrow somebody's notes and you'd make a copy of it so that you could catch up, right? But and this is a story from a leading elite school in Sri Lanka. So this child had missed a day of school and had gone to their friend to borrow the notes, and the child had refused. I mean, the child had actually been all right to okay with lending the book, but the child said, "My mother has said not to lend my books to you." Right? So this is because there's this competition to see who is going to be first in the class. Or another example, again from a leading school, a private school. So a child who normally comes like about 5th or 6th in class had in this particular term managed to do better and come second. And then the child who is regularly coming first in the class had come and spoken to this child and said, "My mother told me that I should treat you as my enemy." Now, even if they had said as my competitor, I think that's not useful, that's not helpful. But to actually tell this child that you should treat this child as an enemy, right? So that's the kind of competition that we are seeing in the system today. The second part, and this is actually the part I think is more crucial, is about what we learn. So we measure educational achievements individually. So I could have an A for chemistry and my classmate maybe had a B. And maybe I had a B for physics and the classmate has an A. So you might be wondering like what's wrong with that, right? There's no other way to do it. The problem is that everything we measure is measured on the basis of our individual performance. There are of course things that do require children to work together, like when they're in the sports team or when they're in a society, but we can't really measure those, right? You can't sit an exam and give one person an A in teamwork and somebody else a B. And because it's difficult to measure them, what we do is we don't measure them at all. And we anyway relegate these kind of things as secondary to exams, right? That's why we call them extracurricular activities. Or nowadays it's a little bit promoted and we call it co-curricular. But whatever they are called, they get put on the back burner when the exam season comes along, because those things are not what matters. It's your exam grades that matter. That's what we are telling children. Now, we started looking for educational alternatives about 10 years ago, and one reason for that timing was that I've been working in team building since about 2005, and somewhere around 2013 I realized something, right? Throughout education, we are measuring children on how they perform individually. So they're not encouraged to learn how to work with other people. They don't really learn about empathy, about teamwork, about collaboration, about achieving shared goals, none of these things. And then they complete the education, they go to a company, they get a job, and then they're told you have to be a team player, right? So for their entire childhood, that entire development experience, we make them be individual performers, and when it comes to the time they actually have to make use of this knowledge, they are now expected to be a team player, and they haven't had those kind of development opportunities. And it's not only about a job even, right? There's many challenges in the world that are threatening our survival, whether it's conflict, whether it's climate change, all manner of problems, and all solving all of them, any of them, require that we work together. So if we have to work together as adults, we have to learn how to do it by working together as children. And as long as we measure our children exclusively or even mostly on the individual performance, they are not going to learn that. So this kind of toxic competition that we are seeing is actually depriving children of the opportunity to learn how to work with each other, and that's one of the most crucial things for the future. Even when it comes to 21st century skills, collaboration is one of the key things they're talking about, right? So you can't teach collaboration as a subject like you teach history or something like that, right? They might learn some of the theory, they might answer things on a paper, but to actually learn how to work with other people, you have to feel that you are doing things with them and not competing with them. So that's the other side of the competition problem, and why something radically needs to change in how we deliver education.